right. All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. No matter where you may find yourself as you listen to this and you tuned into the only sports podcast with brains and bars. You're tuned into another episode of It's a Black and White Thing. I am one half of the dynamic duo. I am Carlos Johnson. You can call me A1. You can also call me Dan. You can check out every episode of It's a Black and White Thing by going to the podcast app of your choice. Searching Brains and Bars, or you can also follow us on our YouTube page. Most episodes of the podcast are on the YouTube page by searching Brains and Bars. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe. Tell a friend it's those boys. Again, the more you do that, the more people are then put in tune with the podcast. In his absence, shout out to my homie A Ward, who's the other half of the team. Go to IamAward.com for everything A Ward related. He's got a couple of battles that have dropped. Well, I shouldn't say dropped, but the VODs are available. A Ward versus Ill Will from RBE's Max Out is available on VOD now. And also shout out to iBattle, shout out to Lex. His battle versus Excel is also out on the iBattle app. You can cop that battle in particular, or you can get the entire event on VOD. And as someone who was there over the weekend for that event, it was a really dope event. Every battle is good. Every battle has replay value. So with that being said, now we got those particulars out the way. I want to, as you can see by the title, we have a special guest joining us this afternoon. He is the head of Sports Talk 2319, the one of one podcast. He is Rashad Phillips, and I'm going to bring him on the screen here. Rashad, how you doing this afternoon, sir?
I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me, A1. I really do. Really appreciate it.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you coming on. So we got a lot of topics we want to cover here this afternoon in our conversation. But I want to start off by starting kind of close to home, and then we'll kind of spread out and we'll get to the NCAA tournament and NBA prospects and things of that nature. So you're from Detroit, right? Born and raised. Yes, sir. Played at Detroit Mercy. Now, one of the reasons this interview came about, I got to give a shout out to my homie Jesse Abbey. Jesse is he's an Army brat, but he was born in Detroit. He's Detroit through and through. Tigers, Lions, Pistons, all of that good stuff. Michigan, and so he pointed me your direction when we're talking about your positional dictionary, right? And the definitions and things that you come up with. So he's like, bro, check him out, reach out to him. He's real approachable. See if you can get him on the show. So I got to say, shout out to my guy, Jesse. Part of this is your doing. Shout out to Coach Wilford, who helped put this all together as well. Shout out to him. We appreciate you, sir. But I want to start close to home. And when we talk about Detroit basketball, we might think about the Fab Five. We might think about, for those who are our age, right? As you get kind of into the 2000s, you might think of the Pistons team with Chauncey and Rashid and the like. But I want you to get into just the local Detroit scene. Like, what is that scene like from your time and even today?
Well, the scene was actually easy for me because I was actually born into the scene. My father, Virgil Phillips, started his own youth center, community center in 1979, right on the east side of Detroit, right around the corner from my house off East State Fair in 75. So I was pretty much born into the sport, born into the community, whereas I just had it in my backyard, the likes of the Steve Smiths and the Chris Webbers and the Jalen Rose and the Anderson Hunts and the Derek Colemans. Like, I seen these guys at 5, 6, 7 years old, and I was able to, grow up under the likes of those type of guys. So for me, I was pretty much born into the game.
That's what's up. Like those 5 names you named right there, like, it got me thinking, like, like Detroit might be, like, if you talk about all-time players that come from one particular city or region, like, you might be looking at Detroit. I know New York obviously has a storied history. Philly's got a history, but
California.
Yeah. That's high. So, so if you could then, just from a high school aspect, we said, obviously you just named 5 NBA players, right? High level NBA players. But in terms of just like on that level, from a high school aspect, if you could put together like an all Detroit starting 5, like of the greatest high school players from the Detroit area, like what would that starting five be?
Wow. My number one pick will be Chris Webber. Chris will always be number one in my book, no matter what. So Chris Webber would be number one. I would start Chris Webber at power forward. I would put Derek Coleman at the stretch big. I would put Spencer Haywood at center. Curtis Jones at the point guard position. And Steve Smith at the combo guard. That will be my starting five for Detroit.
Yo, I'm gonna have to I'm gonna clip this up and I'm gonna post this out and I'm gonna be like, look, man, I need y'all to rep your city, rep your hood, because I need to see who got a starting five that's gonna be better than that.
That's a tough five, man. You know, you got a guy like Chris Webber who embodied the power forward position at that time, a mythic figure amongst our community.
Right.
Then you look at Derek Coleman, where Chris Webber is kind of a fabric of Derek Coleman. DC was one of the first original stretch fours that could do a little bit of everything as far as post up, knock down long range shots, defend block shots. And then you got Curtis Jones, who was a wizard with the ball. A lot of people don't know his background, but this dude may be pound for pound, talent for talent, the best to ever come out of Detroit. You got Spencer Haywood, who is the reason why college players can leave school early because of him. Right, Spencer Haywood took that to the Supreme Court, played at my alma mater, University of Detroit. And then you have Steve Smith, who was kind of a one-of-one player at his time, 6'9", could play point guard, could play shooting guard. He was a little bit of a combo guard, did everything for Michigan State and had a very, very, very productive career in the NBA. So, I mean, those are the five guys that you're up against. So you named some names that I mean, like Spencer Haywood, granted, he's a little bit before my time. So I know about Spencer's impact, right? In terms of about the Supreme Court case, but I didn't know that he was from Detroit. So I mean, like, man, I mean, DC, like, again, DC is someone that I watched playing at, well, I might have been a little bit too young to catch him at Syracuse, but definitely watched him play in the league. And like I said, one of the OGs when it comes to like a stretch four, stretch big who could step out and hit a jumper. Yeah. That's pretty tough. Like, I'm definitely going to put this out. I'm like, all right, y'all, give me a starting five that's going to compete with that one, because you're going to have a hard time coming up with a five. No doubt. That's what's up. So one of the things as I was doing some research and, you know, just following your timeline and looking around, I see that you are nicknamed Yoda. And even when we put out like the promo to say, yo, Rashad's going to be joining us on the show, tune in. Like, I've had a couple of people reply like Yoda. So for those who are uneducated, how did you get the nickname Yoda? Where does that come from? It came from when I started my training academy about 15 years ago. I started my own training academy, Skills Unlimited, and I had about 150 students, male and female, from elementary all the way to the pros. And I had one of the college coaches, Lance Bayless, came up to me and was like, I was training his son. He came up to me and he was like, you know what? You are like the Yoda to all of your students. It's like you always have the answer. You always have the correct advice for your students. And I just wanted to give you that name. And me being a huge Star Wars person growing up, my mom loved Star Wars. So as a kid growing up, kind of learning the background story of Yoda, I just felt that it was something that it stuck with me and it was fitting, and I have fun with it. That's what's up. So you're a huge Star Wars guy. Yeah. So your favorite, which of the, so have you watched like the complete series, or are we just talking about the first 3 episodes from back in the day? I watched them all, but I'm old school, so I like the Empire Strikes Back. Okay, that's what's up. That's my favorite one. That's what's up. That's what's up. All right, so let's jump into your college career. So you go to the University of Detroit. Yeah. So I know that
just again doing research, you weren't as highly recruited, but you go to a basketball camp that includes Kobe Bryant. You do your thing there, and that gets the attention of other schools. Mm-hmm. So if you hadn't gone to University of Detroit, like what would have been your second choice?
Georgia Tech. Bobby Crimmins was huge on allowing small point guards to have success at Georgia Tech. If you look at the lineage of the guards, Stephon Marbury, Travis Best, Mark Price, Kenny Anderson, like he's always had guards that could really wiggle with the ball and run the offense through. So I kind of fit that DNA. So if I wouldn't have been a Prop 48, Georgia Tech probably would have been the choice.
Man, that's tough. That's yeah. All right, cool. So 4 years at Detroit. I think your senior year you win the Francis Naismith Award for best player 6 feet and under, correct?
In the country.
Yes, sir. And so during your time in college, who was the best player that you faced?
That's a tough question, man. I played against a lot of great players. I would do a disservice to just pick one.
Go ahead.
I played against so many great players. Probably my toughest matchup was probably Damon Stringer.
Okay.
Damon Stringer. Let me give you a little history on Damon Stringer. Damon was Mr. Basketball in Ohio. He signed to go to Ohio State, and he won Freshman of the Year in the Big Ten. And then he transferred to Cleveland State. So that's letting you know what kind of player he was.
Right.
Okay. He was in my conference, so I had to battle him twice a year. And he was strong. He was cerebral. He didn't miss a lot of shots. He was tough. He had a deceptive quickness about him. And he just knew his playbook. So he was one of the tougher matches that I've ever faced because you had to be on your P's and Q's to compete against a high-level player like that. Jamal Crawford was probably the toughest player I had to defend because of his size, and he moved quicker than I did, but he was 6'5".
Right, yeah.
He was tall. He could shoot. He was really wiggly with the ball. He had crazy handle, and he had a flair about him that even his missed shots looked like they were going to go in, So he was tough to defend. Baron Davis was kind of the most brutal matchup that I've ever had because he was so powerful. He was so polarizing. He was so quick and explosive off the dribble. And then on top of that, he just had, a flair about him that made him dangerous. So like those guys, Karan Butler, I played against him at UConn. Karan Kobe gave him the name Tough Juice. And that is probably the most fitting name of who he is because he was probably the toughest player that I played against outside of Kenyon Martin and a guy named Doc Taylor from Cleveland State. So I played obviously I played against Kobe Bryant in high school. So I played against so many great players. I feel bad because I know I've left some names out, but I'll be here all day telling you about the tough matchups that I've encountered.
So I apologize. I want to take a step back because you mentioned playing against Kobe at which camp was that again?
It wasn't a camp. It was the Magic Round Ball Classic.
Magic Round Ball. That's right. Okay. So going into that, obviously Kobe has this. All the hoopla surrounding Kobe at this time.
Yeah, he's number one player in the country.
So is there a chip on your shoulder knowing you going into this game like I gotta put on and show who I am and put people on notice that, hey, I got some game too.
I was born with a chip. So I didn't have to put one on my shoulder for that game. I was already born with a chip on my shoulder. So for me, going into that game, I was going to be what I had already been doing. I was Oakland County Player of the Year. I was all state. I was a number 2 point guard in the state of Michigan. So I had a little local clout, from having a chip on my shoulder. So matching up against Kobe Bryant I really was excited for that. Like I wanted that matchup. You know, if you want to be great, then you got to play against great players. You know, and for me, I was never gonna, dodge the smoke. Like I'm gonna lock horns with whoever you put in front of me. And it was a great game. Not only Kobe was in that game, but Tim Thomas and Richard Hamilton and Jamal McGlure and Jason Hart and Shaheen Holloway and just so many wonderful players. So you had to bring your hard hat, or you were going to get embarrassed.
Yo, you keep bringing, man, like it's bringing back a lot of great men. Like Tim Thomas was a baller, right? Villanova, right? He went to Nova.
He only went there for 1 year, baby.
Yeah. I'm like, okay, yeah, man. Okay. So we'll jump back into the college side of things. So, the Detroit teams had a couple of upsets in the tournament. As a 10 seed, they upset St. John's, Felipe Lopez, young Ron Artest, I believe.
No upsets.
No. Oh, my apologies. So they defeated St. John's, right? And then the next year, you guys defeat UCLA.
Sure.
Right. So I'll say this from this standpoint, right? That UCLA game, you guys are a 12 seed against a 5. Now, from the outside world, right, they're looking at that as an upset, just from that standpoint.
The optics.
They do that as an upset, right? And so, if for those who haven't, myself, right, for those who haven't been in that situation where obviously we're playing these tournament games with fans, when they see that a seed that is not as highly regarded as a UCLA, when they're going to pull off this win, they're jumping into it. So just kind of take, if you can, from what you remember of that game, like walk us through like what your emotions were as this game is coming to a close. You're going to pull off this win, and now you're going to be the talk of the tournament because optically, you pulled out this upset against, UCLA is a storied program.
Sure. For us personally as a team, we were the best mid-major team in college basketball. We were 24-5 going into that game. 24-5. Think about that. That's a lot of wins.
Correct. Yes, sir.
So from our standpoint, we had already knew that we were confident going into this game. We were confident in playing anybody we wanted to play because we trusted our own skills. We trusted our system. And we were just a hungry team. You had myself, you had Jermaine Jackson, you had Bakari Alexander, you had Desmond Ferguson, Daniel White, Walter Crabb, Darius Beelan, Cliff Austin, Kareem Main. It was a team full of savages, man. Like these, you got to think about this, man. Like I'm from the east side of Detroit. Jermaine Jackson's from the east side of Detroit. Bakari's from the southwestern side of Detroit. Like these are kids on this roster that you're not going to move them.
Right.
So when we got UCLA, we drew that up. We were excited. They had Baron Davis and Earl Watson, and Matt Barnes was on that team, and Rush. Like they had a team full of NBA guys, but it didn't really move us. So when we won that game, it was almost like we knew we were going to win. We never went in like, oh, this is UCLA. We're in trouble. It was never that in preparation to UCLA. It was like they not going to know what's going to hit them when we step on the floor with them. And that's what happened. And that's not trying to, that's not taking anything away from UCLA. I'm telling you what was going through the mind of us. Right. We didn't really care what the TV said and the newspapers and who was storied and all that. Like we didn't really care about all that. Like we was going to meet you in a dark alley and we were going to come out.
And you have to have that mindset, right? Like you have to play high level Division I, whether we're talking about it's a blue blood, the mid majors, you have to have that mindset and the attitude that no matter who you come up against, no matter who you play against, you have to see me. You're going to have to see me. You can do all the talking. You can do all the posturing. You have the name on the front of the jersey. But at the end of the day, it's me and you.
That's really what it was at the end of the day. You got to see me.
So let's and if you can, like after the game, your father, I saw that he started a program, right, to try to get kids off the streets, and impart into them the game of basketball and the things that it could teach, amongst other things, right?
Yeah.
With the Reach Academy.
Yeah.
So, when you're looking at after you defeat UCLA, like what is that conversation like with family members and with your father of we just, like you said, we had that chip on our shoulder. We came in, they had to see us, and we did what we had to do. So what is that conversation?
Yeah. My pops was kind of, he had the same mentality that we had, right? So it wasn't, he just, this is what we do, son. This is what we do. When they line up a person across from you, we gonna come out of it, and that's kind of, my dad is kind of the master motivator, like without him in my ear, all the way through, like I wouldn't have been a great player, without my father's just motivation. My dad always motivated me to be above and beyond a good player, go above and beyond with your craft. So after that win was just a testament to what he had instilled in me as a kid. So now as a parent, like I got 2 daughters. So as a parent, being able to watch your child compete at the highest level in front of 60,000 people and come out victorious as a parent, like that's the feeling you build your kid for that moment. So I was happy that both of my parents was able to, experience that win at that particular time.
Dope. So we're here with Rashad Phillips, Sports Talk 2319's on One of One podcast on It's a Black and White Thing. And so let's jump into, I want to have you compare and contrast how the game has changed since you've played. So what it was like when you played versus what it is today.
Yeah. Like, I don't want to sound like some old, the old bitter guy, because a lot of times people come off that way. For me, I love the way the NBA is today. I'm one of those guys that I embrace evolution. Unfortunately for me as a player, I felt that I was one of those guys that was before his time. Mm-hmm. When you look at the game when I was playing, a 5'9", 5'10" hybrid guard was kind of taboo. We wasn't supposed to be great scorers. We wasn't supposed to shoot from the 4th level. We wasn't supposed to have all this flair. We were supposed to dribble the ball past half court, pass it, cut through, and let the play develop. Well, for me, I wasn't that type of player. So I was kind of an outcast in my era, but when you look at today's game, everything that I stood for when I played is what is embraced in today's game, which is the long range shooting, the aura, the magnetism, the dancing style, the hybrid guards, the Damian Lillards, the Trae Youngs, the Steph Currys, the Ja Morants. Like, these guys are accepted today. They're celebrated. They're drafted. But when I was playing, I was an outcast.
Wow, man. And, I think that's something that, so I'll use a guy like Russell Westbrook, right? Like, I feel like I'm a Russell Westbrook fan in part because of all the slander that he would get, back, especially those early OKC days when OKC is on the rise. Why is he not playing like a traditional guard? Why is he not, why is he taking shots away from Durant? He does, like, and I became a fan because I'm like, guys, like you said, the game is evolving. It's changing. And that traditional point guard is something that we're moving away from. In a sense, not to say that we still don't have guys who
got a few of them.
Right. You have guys who are able to have a balance, right, of being able to score, but also be able to set up the team. And granted, Russ is a triple-double machine these days, and he's still getting hate, but that's neither here nor there. But again, like we're seeing this evolution, and so like I'm assuming those guys that you named, the Ja Morants, the Damian Lillards, like those, if you were to put someone up on the type of player that you were, those are the names that you would use in terms of if someone wanted to be able to kind of, I guess, say, hey, Rashad, what kind of player, who is today's equivalent? those would be the names that you would choose.
Yeah, my equivalent would probably be Damian Lillard would probably be the guy that plays a lot like me with a kind of a sprinkle of Steph Curry, and they're both hybrid guards in my sense. So like I was that fabric, I was like that. They're 6'3", right? I'm 5'9", they're 6'3", so they're bigger, but they share the same style.
So as you talk, like it's leading to want to ask some different questions. So coming up, being a smaller guard, like who were the players that you looked up to, especially if they were closer in size or stature?
Isaiah Thomas is the player that I looked up to as a kid. Growing up in Detroit, watching Isaiah Thomas' career, him winning a national title in '81 with Indiana, and then coming to Detroit and pretty much changing the landscape of the city of Detroit with back-to-back championships. The Pistons was one Isaiah Thomas injury away from actually three-peating. If Isaiah doesn't turn his ankle against the Lakers in Game 6, they win and they three-peat. So Isaiah was a huge inspiration to what I was trying to become. And also Chris Jackson out of LSU. Now he's Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, but he was a huge inspiration to me as a kid because I patterned my game after like Isaiah Thomas and like Chris Jackson. Those are the two guys that I was trying to emulate growing up as a kid.
I'm gonna tell you, I'm from Louisiana, and growing up, when you have him, Clarence Gilbert, Stanley Roberts, Shaq, like they were appointment viewing. When their games would come on, the entire family is sitting around the TV.
Absolutely.
To watch those Dale Brown teams. They were a lot of fun to watch. A lot of fun.
Yes, they were.
So let's keep going on let's stick with the college theme here. Like, I know you talked about, how things have changed in the evolution, right? But obviously analytics has come to play a huge part in the game, not just from the NBA, but on down. You watch a team like Baylor, who won the national championship, who takes a lot of 3-pointers, right? Especially from their guards with Teague, with Mitchell.
Yeah.
So do you think that the 3-point shot, just because the kids can't shoot as well as the pros, do you think that the reliance on the 3-point shot is hurting the college game at all?
I don't think it's hurting the game at all. I don't. Baylor actually won doing that. No, I don't think it's hurting the game. I think what it does, it's too much of anything can kill you,
Right.
So I think that the 3-pointer should be used in moderation. But if you're great at it, I believe you should take it. And this is coming from a person who took 9 3-pointers a game at my senior year. So
wow, like you really are an anomaly, like for that time.
Yeah, I was looked at like, bro, you shooting too many threes. Like I attempted 9 threes a game my senior year at 41%, and I led the country with 136 makes. So again, I'm a supporter of the 3-point line if you have the ability to make them at a high clip. So everything needs to be done in moderation.
Okay. So, the one and done rule, which I believe, I can't remember if the NBA is getting ready to remove it or not, but I think that is coming down the pipe. If there's been a lot of talk about the college game and saying that, the fact that these kids aren't staying for 2, 3, 4 years, that it's hurting the product overall because you don't have any superstars, you don't have a Zion Williamson that eyes are attracted to. So if the NBA removes that one and done rule, right, and allows kids like Zion, who probably would have went straight to the league, I'm pretty sure Cunningham probably would have went straight to the league, straight from high school. Do you think the removal of the one and done rule would hurt or help the game of college basketball?
I'm kind of in the middle of that. I don't think it does neither, because college basketball will never go out of business, regardless of what the rules are, because playing professional sports, as far as the NBA, it's like less than 1% chance that it's going to be you. So where do the other 99% of people go? You got to go to college.
Fact.
So opening up a door for 1% of people doesn't mess up the other 99% that's trying to get through the other door. That's how I feel about that.
Okay. Okay. So if there's one thing from the college game that I'm sorry, let me rephrase that question. What's the one thing about the college game that you would change that you believe would improve it?
I think you should move the 3-point line back and
Oh,
open up the floor a little bit because the players are better. I believe if you could move the college line, even if you moved it to the NBA three, to just open it up a little bit more, or just short of the NBA line, I think you'll open it up a little more and allow players to really display their individual skill sets.
So for me, it's either has to do with the block charge call. I feel like 9 times out of 10, I disagree.
Oh, that's a terrible. Yeah, that's just a referee thing. It's just a bailout call, man.
Yeah. And the other thing is, like, I am not a fan of zone. I mean, shout out to Jim Boeheim, but I hate zone. Like, I want you to man up, guard your man, and take their hearts from them. Like, back when I used to play like rec league, and I was a captain, I always tell my teams, look, your shooting comes and goes, right? Like, shot making, I never understood the phrase, it's a miss and make league. When the NBA guys were talking to you, start playing rec league, and like, I know I can shoot, but it's not falling tonight. But I tell them, defense is an every possession attitude. Like, if you defend, that energy then transfers over to the offensive side, and you can get, maybe if you're down, you get some stops, you start to score, that you feel that energy, you get hype, you're making more stops, so on and so forth. So, but yeah, zone, get it out.
Here's why that's kind of hard to do, because when you're coaching, you have to look at it from a personnel standpoint. So what if you recruit all slow-footed guys?
I got to be a better recruiter.
But I'm just saying, like, if you're in a situation where you have a recruiting year and your 12 players are all slow-footed, you're not going to go out there and try to man up Duke. You're going to put them in a 2-3 zone and say, I just hope Duke miss and we can rebound. So I think the zone, personally, I don't like it, but I understand it because it's a personnel decision. Like, if you got a great shot blocker on the back end and a great anticipator, then you may want to go 1-3-1 because you want to use that personnel's gift. So a lot of times the zone in college highlights the personnel, or it hides the weakness in the team, so they play it.
Yeah, I completely understand it. I just will always
personally, I get your personal feeling.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Absolutely.
As a coach, you get 12 slow-footed guys that feet are slower than rush hour traffic. You're going to try to play zone because you can't guard Zion and those type dudes.
Touche. I'll take the L. I don't lose a lot of arguments. I lost that one.
I'm trying to save your job, bro. Like, I don't want you out there trying to play man to man, and then you got them slow-footed guys, and it's like you got to make an adjustment, man. I'm trying to keep you employed.
Facts. I appreciate that. So I wanted to discuss your overseas career because, like, I had a conversation with one of my homies, and I can't remember who we were talking about, but I was just like, man, like, obviously the NBA is the top league in the world. You know, the top athletes, the best of the best, make it there, and it's really, you have to fight to maintain your spot unless you're one of these superstars, right? It's always a fight to maintain your spot because there's always a draft every year, free agency. Someone's coming along who could take your place. And so I said, if you go overseas, like, you really love the game because you're going to a place that you're unfamiliar with. You might not speak the language, and you're playing for, obviously, for money, but you're playing for the love, for real. And the hopes that your career will lead you back to the States, right? So if you can, like, you play for, forgive me.
I should
Italy, Eroni Navarro.
Navarro.
Okay. At least I got close. I forgot to put it in my notes. But that first day when you step off the plane and you're in Italy, like, what's going through your mind when you step into another place to play basketball?
How did I get here? Where am I at? How did I get here? Like, what do I supposed to do? Like, what is this? Why am I here? That was Again, I'm 23, 24. So, I was bitter about that. I didn't want to go overseas. I didn't feel like I belonged overseas. I felt like I belonged in the NBA. So it was like a punishment to me. I'm like, man, why am I here? Like, I don't want to be here. Like, I didn't work my whole life to play in Italy.
Yeah.
And it had nothing to do with Italy. It was the fact that I felt that me personally, like, I didn't do all what I did to get here.
Right.
And so that was the thought process. It's what I felt.
So, like, how were you received by like the coaching staff? Because I've heard that when an American comes to an overseas team, or to an international team, like they're expecting you to be really good, really high level, right? In most cases. And so, like, what was your reception when you played with Italy and some of the other places that you moved around?
I mean, they treated me well in Italy. My first game as a professional overseas, I broke the scoring record. So I scored 51 points my first game in Italy. You can go look it up. It's documented. I went 17 for 22 from the field, 15 from 18 from the free throw line. We won. It was an overtime thriller. I led the league in scoring before eventually I went home after like 8 games because the money started. They stopped. The money was funny. But yeah, I ended up leading the league in scoring when I was there as a rookie. I had 50. I had some 46.44. I like 4 40-point games, a 50-point game, and the rest were like 20s because the coach tried to dump down my scoring average before they stopped paying me. So it got really funny. So I ended up going home. But I was received well. The fans were great because I was like a fan favorite. Look, I'm little. I'm scoring a bunch of points. So everybody's loving me, right? So.
Man. So what's the best story that you can tell about your time overseas?
I think the relationships that I built. I think my funnest year was probably when I played in Turkey. Mm-hmm. It was a very tough league. I was first team all league with Khalil El-Amin, who was one of my favorite college point guards ever. Me and him were made first team all league. He was playing for Beşiktaş. I was playing for Takal Spor. And I just Will Solomon was over there as well. Like Dave Dixon, who has a great podcast now with Alvin Snow. I just developed a lot of friendships over there that I still have today. I just really enjoyed playing in Turkey on the court and off the court. It was probably my funnest time. Just being around the right people and really not being homesick. It was one of the few times I wasn't homesick when I played in Turkey because I just had so many friends there.
That's what's up. So if you could give advice to a college player who's making that transition for the first time to playing overseas, what would you impart to them?
Find your inner peace. Find your inner peace. Because again, like you said in the beginning, you're overseas now because it's to make money. And now it's because you have some type of love for the game, because it's going to be a lot of empty gyms. It's going to be a lot of empty days. It's going to be a lot of self-reflection on why and who and what. So I would advise anybody to find your inner peace and start planning for what you're going to do next, even in the moment.
That's great advice. I want to make another transition, right? You talked about running a basketball academy and training players, but you also worked as a trainer with IMG Academy. So how did you get to that place of working with IMG Academy?
Well, I was the head skills trainer at IMG Academy, just through relationships. A guy, Brian Nash, was recruiting one of my kids out of my program when he was at Duquesne. And the kid name was Spencer Littleson, who ended up leading the country in 3-pointers this season at Toledo. He ended up recruiting Spencer out of my program. Spencer signed with Duquesne and then ended up transferring out. So Brian noticed that I had a different ideology on training kids, training NBA players. I had my own training DVD, So I had everything's documented as far as me as a trainer. So I ended up moving to Florida. I was moving to Florida anyway. So it just kind of made sense to kind of do that while I was transitioning from the training world to the media space. And it was, I had a good time there.
Cool. So I heard you talk about your training ideology. Like what was that ideology, or what is that ideology?
Well, it's a lot. It's a lot. I'll try to condense it for you. But for me, I see the game through a different lens, obviously. And I try to inject into my kids how to navigate the game of basketball physically and mentally. I'm not a cone guy. I'm more of a imagination type of trainer. I like my kids to visualize the game. I like them to put themselves in great scenarios. I like them to put themselves in bad scenarios, and we try to work our way out of it. So that's kind of the way that I've been able to train kids over the years, and it's shown to be very effective.
Okay. So I guess that leads me to you creating the positional, metric or dictionary, right? So, like, what was your inspiration for creating this?
Me.
Yeah. Dope. That's what's up.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just being honest, because when I was coming out of college, I think I was mislabeled. Like, they didn't know what I was. Mm-hmm. And I've watched, even before my time, I've watched players become mislabeled due to the fact that the game of basketball only tries to give you 5 slots, which I think it does a disservice to the game itself, and it does a disservice to the players. You go back, watching the Detroit Pistons, right? I'm a Detroiter, so my reference is the Detroit Pistons. When you look at Isaiah Thomas, they didn't really know what to categorize him as well. So they said he wasn't pure, right? And you look at that Piston team with Dennis Rodman and Bill Laimbeer. Like, Dennis Rodman was a hybrid post. Bill Laimbeer was a stretch big. Isaiah Thomas was kind of a hybrid guard, point guard. Joe Dumars was a combo guard. So Chuck Daly did a great job of allowing his players to play outside of their slots. So as time progressed, when I came out of college, they were trying to fit me into a slot that I didn't fit. They were trying to make me traditional. And I wasn't traditional. I was a hybrid guard. It's like you're trying to fit a car into a garage, but the car is too big for that garage. It's not the car's fault. The garage just doesn't hold it, right? So as time goes on, you look at a guy like Draymond Green, who was mislabeled. They called him a power forward. Like, he wasn't a power forward. He was a hybrid post. So I just saw a lot of players really have a disservice done to their careers to a certain extent, because the powers that be would slot them in only 5 slots. There's like 40 different styles of basketball player. There's no way you can fit 40 styles into 5 slots.
Right. True. So I heard you mentioned Draymond as being a hybrid post. Like, who would be in today's game? Who would fit the slot of a hybrid guard?
Russell Westbrook's a hybrid guard. Steph Curry's a hybrid guard. Damian Lillard's a hybrid guard. Gilbert Arenas was a hybrid guard. Jamal Murray was a hybrid. Like, those guys are hybrid guards.
Okay. So is there anyone who fits kind of that traditional guard mode?
Yeah. Lonzo Ball is a traditional guard. Rajon Rondo is a traditional guard. Like, John Stockton was a traditional guard. Mark Jackson was a traditional guard. Jason Kidd. Like, there's fabric to all of these terms. Like, these terms, players fit these terms years ago. It was just that the powers that be and the gatekeepers didn't want to change the language. It was like, we're just going to stick with these 5 slots. But when you look at a Dennis Rodman was not a power forward, and he wasn't a small forward. He was a hybrid post.
Right.
That's what he was. Kevin Garnett, hybrid post. Hakeem Olajuwon, hybrid post. Ben Wallace, hybrid post. So like these terms that I've brought to light have already collected data over the years. Like this is nothing new here. It's just being brought to light from my platform.
Okay. So how can your guide be helpful in building a team in today's game of basketball?
Easy. It's plug and play. You know, it's like a video game. You look at what your team, you look at the matches, right? You could take great teams and see what they had. Again, look at the Piston team and see they had Isaiah point guard, Dumars combo guard, stretch big, hybrid post. Okay, that kind of works. So you can start drafting players that fit those slots. And that's what I've tried to do, is give you different slots where you can see what matches. Let's look at the Lakers today. LeBron James is a dual forward. So you plug that. Anthony Davis is a hybrid post. Cool. Schroeder's a point guard. Cool. So you're learning what works depending on the position. So as a GM or as a recruiter, even recruiting kids out of high school, you're able to put your team, you're able to customize your team even better, because now you have these slots where you can plug and play these kids or players.
Okay. So is there a place where someone wanted to learn more about your positional definitions? Where could they go to learn more?
You can go to my website, sportstalk2319.com, and you can click on my position dictionary, and I have an episode kind of breaking it down, which each term actually means.
Okay. That's what's up. So we're here with Rashad Phillips from Sports Talk 2319, talking, we've talked Detroit basketball. We talked about his career. Obviously, we just got into his positional definitions. So let's talk a little bit about the NBA draft and the NCAA tournament that just concluded. Who, in your estimation, who was the player who has helped his draft stock through the tournament going into this year's draft?
Easily Davion Mitchell from Baylor. I believe that this kid was on the fringe of maybe a first or second round pick, but as each game progressed, he started to really elevate himself as a dominant player. So I think he did himself the most service throughout the March Madness.
And watching Baylor, now granted, I'm in the Midwest, so I'm in Big 12 country. And I watched Baylor play, and I think for me, I caught them at the wrong time. I caught them right off the COVID pause. So they played KU. That might have been their first or second game back. KU blows them out, and I'm going, typical Scott Drew. Like, their teams perform, but when it really matters, they don't win the big matchups, right? And so when they play Gonzaga, I was just so shocked at just Gonzaga. I watched a ton of Gonzaga games, and I just saw them running teams out the gym. Even like a team like Iowa, it's not like just the West Coast Conference, because the knock on them is that Gonzaga, well, they're playing bums, quote unquote, right, in the West Coast Conference. So, of course, they fatten their record up against teams that can't compete. But I watched them play against Big Ten teams, against everybody.
Yeah, their non-conference schedule was huge. Like, they play teams in their non-conference, and they win.
Right. And so, like, I just was shocked at just how much more physical Baylor was, how much more athletic. I mean, it felt like there were 5, 6, or 7 guys on the court, because everywhere, even when Gonzaga tried to rotate and move the ball around, they were there every time. And, Davion Mitchell, Jared Butler, shout out to those guys and the job that they did. I want to ask you about Johnny Juzang, because, when my own bracket, I had honestly Michigan State. I thought Michigan State would make at least a Sweet 16 run. So, I had that 11 seed making it that far, but Jaime Jaquez, Juzang, especially Juzang, like, I knew he could score, but I feel like he went to another level in the tournament. And so for a guy like him, what has the tournament done for his stock?
I think it's done wonders. I mean, this kid can really play. This is a kid that actually went to Kentucky, coming out of high school. So that alone should tell you that this kid must be the real deal. Now, when you watched him play, obviously you're watching a 6'6.5" shooting guard that does a terrific job of creating space, of getting his own shot. But not only him getting his own shot, he's able to make tough shots as well. And if you want to play at the NBA level, you're going to have to really establish yourself as a tough shot maker. And that's what Johnny Juzang accomplished throughout March Madness. Anytime they needed a bucket, he was available to make shots going right, going left. I really like this kid. I believe he's an NBA scorer. And if I was an NBA team, I would definitely draft him because he possesses a lot of the skill set that you need to have a long career at the highest level.
Okay, so I want to talk about Cade Cunningham briefly. I got an opportunity to go and watch him play again. I kept catching people coming off of COVID or injury issues. So I watched I think it was a double overtime game against Texas in Stillwater. What do you think he's the number one overall pick, and who would you compare his game to?
I do think he's a number one pick. He's a dual forward that does a terrific job of accepting the responsibility of not only making himself better, but enhancing his surroundings. So from that standpoint, he reminds me a lot of Grant Hill. He's not as athletic as Grant Hill, not as quick as Grant Hill, but like his aura, the way he carries himself. I just believe that this is a kid that improves your franchise from day one because he just has a special attraction about him. So that's why I really like Cade Cunningham.
So I'm going to throw this comparison out here, and I feel free to rebuke me if you go, man, you way off base on here. When I watched him play, especially live, I got some Paul Pierce vibes, and this is what I say from Paul Pierce. Pierce, decent athlete. I didn't think he was an incredible athlete, but a good athlete, right? Mm-hmm. And I feel like Paul could get to his spot, and I feel like with Cade knows how to. At least at this stage, he knows how to get to his spots, to get to his shot. I feel like he likes that mid-range. He'll hit you with some crossovers, get you going one way, and then pull up. So do you think, am I way off base with that comparison?
I wouldn't say you way off base, but they're different positions. They're different styles. Like if you use my positions metric, one's a dual forward, the other one is a small forward. So they have different responsibilities. Paul Pierce was never a guy that you allowed to bring the ball up and initiate offense and be a facilitator. Paul Pierce was more like a Carmelo Anthony, more like a Bernard King, a guy that could post up mid post, pinch post, give you 2 or 3 jab steps, get to his spot, elevate. Cade is an initiator. He's an engine. So that's why I like Cade reminds me of the Grant Hills, the Luka Doncic, the LeBron James, like they're dual forwards. Giannis, guys that dominate the ball and initiate for others. Like he's an engine. Okay. Paul Pierce was never an engine.
Fair enough. Like I said, I that was the first thought I had just because of that one aspect of his game. But I appreciate you enlightening me and showing which I now think about it. I mean, Cade does initiate offense, has decent vision, can find guys, so especially pick and roll with his height. So I appreciate the enlightenment there. I do have, before we get ready to close out, we have a couple of more topics left. In your time working as a trainer, you've had a chance to work with some of these kids, like you said, kids who have had D1 offers and done really good things. I think there's talk of kids, especially with the transfer portal, of being entitled or being spoiled. Right. So when you look at what's happening with this transfer portal, do you see that kids who are just simply don't want to stick it out? Or do you see kids who view this as a business and are making what they seem to be as business decisions?
Yeah, I don't see spoiled kids here. I see opportunity. I think as a kid in college, I think you should always exploit the opportunity. This is the time to exploit that. This is the time to exercise your opportunity. So I don't want to be one of those people that are looking at kids saying, "Oh, they're spoiled, they're entitled." Where there are some kids out there like that. Okay, I'm not oblivious to that, but I don't think this is the scenario that we can use that narrative. I think this is just kids trying to exercise their option to maybe find something better for themselves. Coaches do it. Why can't kids do it? Coaches leave for better opportunities. You know, like Shaka left Texas and went to Marquette. He exercised his opportunity. So why can't a kid leave Texas and go to Marquette? You know, like I just think that we got to keep the goalposts right in the middle for everybody.
True. And that's where I am with it. You know, I think sometimes kids, when they decide to make a move, they look at it as if, well, you don't want to stick it out. You know, I had to ride the bench. I had to wait my turn. It's just like, there's a million schools out here. Why wouldn't I go someplace else? And you don't necessarily have to have a Kentucky across your chest or,
Right.
or UCLA or Carolina. You can go to Oklahoma State. You can go to Texas. You can go to Marquette or Gonzaga now and find success and have just as many eyes on you. So I agree wholeheartedly. So we're closing out here with Rashad Phillips. And I want to give you the opportunity you have the Sports Talk banner, 2319 banner behind you. And so I just want to give you a chance to talk about Sports Talk 2319 and the people that work there. So the floor is yours, sir. I just want you to talk about your platform.
Yeah. Sports Talk 2319 is, it's, obviously the 2319 is how many points I scored in college, 2,319 points. But it's really deeper than that. It's really a numerical representation of overcoming obstacles. And everyone here at Sports Talk 2319 has some type of story of them overcoming obstacles. I'm kind of attracted to people that are willing to create their own lane, to take the untraditional route to get to their answers. And when you look at guys and gals that are part of Sports Talk 2319, that's where we're all kind of similar. You have Justina, who is my head of evaluation. She's tremendous. She has her own brand. Dominique Wilford is he's kind of like everybody's manager, and you got Max Van Auken, who I believe will be the next up and coming star. He's the next Colin Cowherd, in my opinion. He's terrific. I got Cameron Patterson, who's an evaluator who works alongside with me through this draft process. I got my guy, Evan, I got my graphic designers, I got my people who write stories. It's just like, I got so many, I can't name all of them, but like we're all one conglomerate. And I like to surround myself with people like myself that are looking to do things their own way and still get the result. And that's what Sports Talk 2319 is about. So is it
sportstalk2319.com?
Yes, it is.
All right. So you guys heard it. If you want to go and support, check out sportstalk2319.com and support the people there. Where can, other than that, is there any other place that we can find you, sir?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter, RP3Natural. You can find me on Instagram, Rashad Phillips 2319.
All right, cool. So, Rashad, Mr. Phillips, I do appreciate you coming on and being with us today. It has been a great experience, and hopefully we can have you again to talk more about college game, pro game, and the like. So, I appreciate you.
Thank you for having me, A1. Talk soon.
Yes, sir. For those of you, thank you who have tuned in live. Thank you for listening. We appreciate it. Once again, you can find every episode of It's a Black and White Thing by going to the podcast app of your choice, searching for It's a Black and White Thing there. Same thing for YouTube. Search Brains and Bars. Same for our Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook as well. We appreciate you. In A Ward's absence, go to IamAward.com for everything A Ward related, merch, battles, and music. And until next time, it's been a Black and White Thing. We thank you all for listening and watching, and we'll see you around in a couple of days. Peace.